Singapore is ranked the second most expensive city in the world. However, statistics have shown that we are still able to save 34 to 35% of our income in 2023. And on average, Americans only save around 4% of their income. So even if things are so expensive in Singapore, how are we able to save so much money? So let's find out today. I think before we start on this, let's think about what are the challenges that Singaporeans face nowadays. The first thing is housing are so expensive in Singapore. So let's take a look. So properties in Singapore are really expensive, and if you look at the condos that are around 10 years old in Singapore, a 1,000 square foot condo in the core central region can cost you about $3.9 million. Take a look at how nice it is. Uh, but however, if you look at a condo at the rest of the central region, it will set you aside about 2.25 million. So this is a condo at Potong Pasir. And if you are looking even further out of Singapore, outside core central region will set you aside 1.6 million for a 1,000 square feet property. So just a quick comparison with our neighbors. If today you were to bring this money to Malaysia or bring it to Thailand, these are the amount of property that you can buy. So 1.6 million is equivalent to about 43 million baht. With this, bringing it to Thailand, you'll be able to buy a 7 room, 5 toilets for a place that is 7,400 square feet, 7 times the size you can get in Singapore. So if you bring it to Malaysia, you can get to stay in this condo in Kuala Lumpur, 6,500 square feet, 5 bed, 6 bath. So using this context, you can understand that how expensive it is to own a condo in Singapore. So the second challenge that we are going to look at is car transport. So if you were to opt for a private car for yourself, a Toyota Corolla Altis will cost you 158,000 Sing dollars. So if you take a look at this, imagine this. A Tesla Model 3 in Malaysia costs you around $52,000. And this means you can actually buy 3 Tesla Model 3 in Malaysia with this 158,000. So transport in Singapore, if you were to opt for your own private car, it is going to be expensive. And the third challenge is in food costs. So let's take a look at food costs. Based on this article that you see over here, the food cost is expensive in the sense that it costs around $20 to $40 per person to dine in a restaurant. And in recent years, it's getting more expensive because the GST have risen from 7% to 9% in these 2 years. So the fourth challenge that we are looking at is in healthcare costs. So based on this article that we are looking over here, healthcare cost is expected to rise by another 10% in 2024. And if you think about that, that is a 10% inflation. And surveys have also shown that Singaporeans have mentioned one of the main challenges of planning for their own retirement is the rising healthcare costs. And it does not help that we are staying in the blue zone, which means that Singaporeans live longer, and this will transit to more healthcare costs. So even with these four things in summary, very expensive houses, very expensive transport in terms of cars, expenses in terms of food, rising costs in terms of healthcare. So how can Singaporeans still save so much money? So let's talk about this. I think it does help that salary is actually increasing in Singapore, and as of now, the median salary is $5,197. So if you take a look at this table, based on 2013 till now, the median salary has been rising up steadily, which is a good thing. So a higher salary definitely helps to defray living costs. So second thing, choice of property. So of course, in today's market, 77% of residents in Singapore, right, actually stay in a HDB. And a HDB is much more affordable compared to a private condo. So imagine this. If you were to stay in a condo priced at 1.6 million, you would have to take a 1.2 million loan. And this means your mortgage is 5,700 plus a month. So assuming if you buy a HDB BTO in Tampines, average price is about 445 to 569, and assume property prices is at 500,000, right? Basically what happens is that your loan itself is only going to be about 1,600 per month. So if you were to share between a couple, this is definitely much more affordable because median salary, let's say a couple both earning a median salary, that would be about 10,000 plus. This is considered with employer CPF contribution added in. This is very affordable because the mortgage is only taking up 15% of their income. Generally, it is recommended to have less than 35% of your income spent on your mortgage so that you got excess fund to plan for your own retirement, your emergency fund, and etc. So basically, if choosing a cheaper property helps the family to save more money. And if we compare this to the US, the Americans are spending 26% of their income on mortgage payment. And likelihood, what they are doing in terms of a prediction is that mortgage to income ratio is going to jump to 40%. So 40% is high because imagine if even if you got a 10K salary, 4,000 is spent on mortgages and you are left with about 6,000 for your living expenses. So your choice of property will allow you to save more money down the road. So choice of transport is the next point. Now we understand that driving in Singapore is very expensive, and I have already shown you the price of a Toyota Corolla Altis. You can buy 3 Tesla Model 3. But however, public transport in Singapore is very accessible. Generally, it costs about 150 to 250 per month. But what if what if a couple really wants to drive a car? So let's do the math. So if a couple were to buy a 3 years old used Toyota Corolla Altis, these are the monthly costs. Monthly payment of the car will be much cheaper. It's about 1,000. Petrol 300, insurance, road tax, blah blah blah, everything. Total monthly cost will set you aside about 1,700 plus. This cost is 12 times more than the public transport. So driving in Singapore is really considered a luxury. So if you were to take this cost and divide by a median salary, excluding CPF contribution by employer, because those are money that you can't use for buying a car, basically this will be about 19%, around 20% of a couple's income, which means it will take a significant chunk out of the monthly salary. So your choice of transport definitely will also affect how much you can save on a month-to-month basis. Choice of food. So dining in Singapore is expensive in restaurant, but the great thing about Singapore is that we have this thing called hawker center. So a meal in a hawker center will set you aside about $5 to $6 a meal. So even if you have 2 meals a day in the hawker center, it will only cost you about $10 to $12 for. So assuming let's say if you spend around $8 to $10 a meal in the hawker center, livelihood this will only set you aside about $500 a month per person, which is still okay because it's only 10% of the median income in Singapore. So choice of food definitely makes a difference. And lastly, managing healthcare costs. Even though cost of healthcare is going up, but this is a risk based on good financial planning that you can easily transfer this risk to an insurer. So buying a hospital insurance will allow you to transfer this risk to an insurer that you don't really have to worry too much about the hospital cost, more on managing your insurance premium. So I did a quotation for a 30 years old non-smoker. And if the person is worried about the cost of her hospitalization, basically he can buy a hospital plan that can cover his expenses even if he admits into a private hospital. So the integrated shield plan premium basically is only about 219 per year. A shield plan rider cash is only 270 a year. And I believe this is very, very affordable because it's only 0.5% of the median salary in Singapore. So on top of that, you can add on all your other insurance, the death coverage, your critical illness coverage, and basically based on this 30 years old non-smoker male, the policy only costs about $2,100 per year, which means it's about 4% of the person's salary. So using this, it's less than 5% and the person can mainly cover majority of the risk in his portfolio. So this will allow him have to have 150,000 if he happens to have a early critical illness, or 500,000 worth of critical illness payout if critical illness in the advanced stages were to occur. So basically, a regular 30 years old working adult in Singapore will not need to worry so heavily about the healthcare costs if he transfer all the risk to an insurer using less than 5% of his income. Let's total everything up. So let's do the math. So assuming the person's salary is 4,500, okay, and he contribute 20% to his CPF, so remaining cash he have will be 3,600. And based on the HDB installment of $800, will be actually able to offset from ordinary account, which the person definitely will have it sufficiently. Okay, so no cash is needed. And assuming the person drive a used Toyota Corolla Altis and share with a spouse, the cost is 877. This is cash. Food, assuming he eat out twice a day at a hawker center for $8 a meal for 30 days, total cost is $480. Healthcare costs, he basically can buy your insurance and the insurance will be about $200 a month. Let's add all the costs together, which only include the cash component. Housing, he does not have to pay via cash. He can deduct it from his CPF. Car is 877, food 480, healthcare cost 201, total 1559. So if you take the salary minus away the major costs in terms of expenses, the person will be left with 2,000 plus a month. And if you invest 20% of your salary every single month, which is 728, you would have left with $1,352 in terms of excess cash. And of course, if he were to choose to take public transport, he will unlock even more spare cash. And there are still other variables like health conditions and number of dependents and children. But from this tabulation that we did, we can see that it is really possible to save 30% of your income. Even things are getting so expensive in Singapore, but it's all about making the choices to make it happen. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and I hope that this video gave you another perspective to think about your own money management and how you can plan better for it. And if you are interested in learning more about managing your mortgages, you can take a look at the new video above the link here. See you in the next video.